Ever since we made our most recent Melanie Martinez doll, based on the new Portals era, I have probably gotten over 100 comments asking us to make another doll to put up for sale because, well, we only made one and it did sell out instantly, which I am very grateful for, but it is unfortunate to see so many people that wanted the doll not be able to get one. And we aren't a factory, okay? I'm not out here producing Melanie Martinez customs every single day of the week. It's just not possible. I wish it was, but I can't. So in this video, I'm going to show you how we made our newest Melanie Martinez custom doll. If you would like to try and make one for yourself, this is a more in-depth tutorial. So, let's get started. First things first, our victim for today's custom is none other than the G3 Monster High Draculaura doll, and it does hurt my soul to be buying these dolls brand new and using them for customs, but fortunately for us, our local Walmart is actually overstocked on G3 Monster High dolls, which I think is a great thing, but they're also on clearance. We got this Draculaura for $12, which I would not be buying that many of her to customize if she was not that cheap, so that is why. Now to start things off, we must prep the doll for customizing, starting off by chopping off Draculaura's hair. I did actually do a poll over on Instagram to figure out what your guys' favorite hair color was for Melanie in this era, and green was winning for the first 2 hours, and then you guys decided to make half pink and half black win. And in those first 2 hours, I was like, okay, green is winning by a landslide. So this doll has a green reroot, even though at the very end, you guys were like, oh, half pink, half black. And now I realize I didn't even need to do a reroot, and I'm very upset about this. But it's okay. We're doing the reroot. I like the green hair. It's totally okay with me. As usual, I'm pulling out all the plugs from the inside the head with my needle nose pliers. Make sure if you are customizing a G3 Monster High doll that when you remove the head from the body, you are very, very careful with that neck peg, because I've been seeing them break left and right through other customizers. These pegs are something else. I don't know. Of course, since I am doing a green reroot on this doll, we are going to be painting the scalp green. I swear, I'm just so paranoid that Melanie is going to release a new music video and the look is going to be so awesome and it's going to be half pink and half black hair, and then I'm going to lose my mind. Once the paint on the scalp is completely dry, I go ahead and pour a little bit of water onto the nylon hair that I use for the reroot because it makes it a little bit easier to separate. If it's dry nylon hair, it just starts to get all over the place, and by the end of the day, you're gonna have hair all over your clothes and all over the floor and all over your desk. It just gets everywhere. And of course, like always, if you are looking for a good rerooting tool or any of the materials that I use in this video, I do have my material list linked in the description. It's like an Amazon affiliate link, so it supports me in a way if you decide to buy anything from it. So thank you if you do, and thank you if you already have. So here is the finished reroot. I used a lot of different nylon greens, and I think I'm gonna name this mix Shamrock Shake because that's just the vibe it's giving me. Even though I know Shamrock Shakes are a minty green, this is just giving me Shamrock Shake. What can I say? And once the reroot is finished, make sure you use your Fabri-Tac, squeeze some of that into the neck hole, and seal up all the hair that you just plugged in. And here's how the hair looks after a good boil wash. Moving on to body modifications, I actually had an extra pair of Bonita femur wings in my stock box that I want to make them detachable from the doll's back, so I'm going to be hand drilling a hole so they are removable and actually stay in place. To do this, I just started with a smaller hand drill, and then I gradually changed out the drill bit and made a bigger hole so it could fit the pig perfectly, and I wasn't starting off too big, you can always go bigger but not smaller. I was, of course, a little nervous about this. Usually when I do body modifications, I'm always afraid I'm just gonna terribly mess up the entire doll and then it's not gonna be fixable. But with this, it's a pretty simple modification, and I think the wings look super, super cool. And our previous custom, I just had the wings sitting behind the doll for the pictures because I thought they were pretty, but now this one actually gets to keep them. So now we are moving on to body blushing because I don't really think that this is the right shade of pink for Melanie's Portals era, so I separate the limbs that are able to be disconnected and then spray everything with a good coat of Mr. Super Clear, and then I turn it over and spray the other side. Then I come over to my desk and we are going to be using a mix of pink chalk pastels to get the right shade of pink. I actually think that G3 Laguna Blue is like the perfect shade of pink to do a Melanie Martinez Portals custom doll. There's just some things about G3 Laguna Blue's doll that I don't think fit well. Like with the transparent legs, you would have to paint and match the pink, which is like probably a lot easier than doing the chalk pastel actually. But there's also like the fins on the body, but I guess that could fit in if you're doing like specifically based on certain songs like Nymphology or Sirens. Like, you know what? Maybe we're gonna have to do another one. And also, this is no shade to Laguna, but her G3 doll definitely has more forehead space if you're trying to draw on the second set of eyes, because like G3 Draculaura doesn't really have as much forehead space as I would like. So I like to blush all the limbs separately because then I can get as much chalk pastel onto the joints, and that way it avoids chipping and it looks more seamless when you have everything all put back together. And so now it is time to reconnect the head back onto the body. A way I like to do this to avoid breaking the neck peg is by cutting it down so it's just this little nub here. It's not going to ruin the articulation or anything, it's just there so it prevents the head from falling off easily, but the head is not going to fall off easily. Okay, now moving on to the face up, I'm going to be using my 100% acetone to swiftly take off the factory face paint. While this doll is partially a recreation of our last Melanie custom, I wanted the face up to be like completely new, so it's not like I'm copy and pasting the same doll, you know? So I deem this to be a very updated face up. In fact, I was so set on this doll being completely different from our previous Melanie custom that I actually wanted to go ahead and do the full face modifications to make the doll look exactly like how Melanie does. So I used some Sculpey air dry clay to build onto the cheeks and ears this time around because I wanted the clay to be a little more lightweight. I previously used epoxy, which if you don't know, epoxy is a very heavy clay, so the doll is just going to get heavier and heavier if I add lots of modifications with that. So I started off using some wet fingers and wet application tools, and this clay was just not working in my favor. I'm not personally someone who really likes to do sculpting with clay. It's just never been my thing, even in school. Like, anytime we had clay projects, I was always doing the worst in the class. It's just not my strong suit, okay? But of course, I still did try my very best to make the cheeks as accurate as possible without looking like just a big lump on the face. In the end, I decided this doll, like, straight up was looking like a character from Whoville, and the sandpaper, as much as I tried to sand it down, it just wasn't helping, and I couldn't get the lines as seamless as I wanted them to. I even went as far as to go in with some light pink acrylic paint, thinking maybe that'll cover up the imperfections that I am noticing. And also, the clay on the cheeks did fall off because it's not really a clay that's meant to just stick to vinyl naturally, so I was like, oh, I'm just gonna super glue the cheeks on and this is gonna go so well. So yeah, I went ahead and added the light pink acrylic paint onto the cheeks, and for a moment I was like, oh, it's kind of looking nice, but then I realized no, that it looks terrible. So I hated how the cheeks were looking, so I decided to remove them, but then I realized, wait, I put super glue onto the vinyl, and this isn't gonna come off. But then Emma came through and saved the day and was able to remove the cheeks mistakes that I made, so thank you so much, Emma. Without her, this doll would not have been possible because she saved the day. Listen, nobody's perfect. I'm happy to show you guys when I make mistakes or things that I deem as mistakes. I'm sure some people will be like, I actually like the cheeks, and then that'll just make me be like, well, I guess I could have kept them. But just don't be afraid to try out new things and go out of your comfort zone, especially with making customs and art. It's like, you can do whatever you want, and you can always backtrack it, or try to. Now, moving on to the face up, as you saw, I already added some chalk pastels to blend the face with the body better, and now I'm just going in with my trusty mechanical pencil to sketch out the face. As I said before, I didn't want to copy and paste the face up from the last Melanie custom that we made, so on this one I am adding a lot more eyelashes to the top and no bottom lashes, because upon further inspection I'm like, Melanie doesn't have any bottom lashes and I think it looks kind of cool, so I'm going to be replicating that. When drawing the second set of eyes, I'm just thinking to myself the entire time, they don't need to be perfect, so don't stress yourself out about it if the shape is not exactly accurate and symmetrical. And especially because on Melanie's mask, like the eyes are kind of like looking outward, they're not necessarily looking forward, so they don't need to be like completely center. On the last face up I did, there's a lot of white graphic liner, and I wanted to do that again, but this time in a better method, because previously I used my mechanical pencil as like the base for the white graphic liner. This time I used a white watercolor pencil, so you cannot see the mechanical pencil seeping through the white acrylic paint. At this point in the face up, I'm thinking it's already looking really cool, so I seal everything with a layer of Mr. Super Clear, and then I just jump straight into my acrylic paints. Starting off with white, I'm going over the watercolor pencil lines I did and creating that white graphic liner look. This time around, they're not completely symmetrical like I did on the previous face up. This time they are more accurate to Melanie's photo shoots and like really unsymmetrical white graphic liner, which I think looks really cool. After I finished adding the graphic liner, I go in with my black acrylic paint and start going over all of the eyelashes. This is a very tedious and important part of the process, so I will be popping into frame every now and then because I just need to get as close as possible to those little eyelashes. I decided to take a break after the first set of eyelashes and paint a layer of her lips. I'm actually using a wet watercolor pencil because I didn't have the perfect shade of red in my acrylic paint stash. So this works out just as well. And then I went in with my white acrylic paint and added the whites of the eyes. Then I'm going over the waterline in my black acrylic paint. Watercolor pencils do take a lot more layers to build up the right pigment that you're looking for, so that is why I tend to not really use them very often. I also added these really cool details to the inner corners of the eyes. It's like some more white graphic liner, but it is a detail that I did not do on the previous face up, so I thought it was worth mentioning. Here is a closer look of how we're looking so far. I also went in with a dark pink watercolor pencil to add some freckles. Then I wet the tip of a paintbrush and also added a little depth into the nostrils with that same dark pink watercolor pencil. Normally that's a detail I don't like to add, but for this one I thought it fit perfectly. And then I also used that dark pink to draw a line connecting from the tip of the nose to the Cupid's bow, because that is a detail I was going to try and create with the clay, which didn't work out, so I figured we'll just draw it on. Because of the lighting in a lot of the photo shoots for Melanie's new look, the eye color is something that I have been struggling with deciding what I want to do, so I just go in starting with a dark blue acrylic paint. Then I add a lighter blue ring to give a little bit of a highlight. And finally I add a little dot of seafoam green to give a little contrasting highlight. Then of course I come back in with my black acrylic paint to darken up the pupils. And here is how the face up looks basically halfway done. I painted the other half of the face off camera and now I'm just adding the final details, being the white catch lights. This is always my favorite part of the face up because it just always brings all the details together. Then I removed the fabric from the head because I just couldn't wait any longer to see the hair and face together. Then for the final detail of the face up, I added some high gloss varnish onto the lips because it's my favorite. I also went ahead and added a lot of silver jump rings using some super glue to act as lots of hoop earrings. And that is pretty much everything for the Melanie's face up, so now I'm going to go ahead and pass the phone over to Emma and she's going to show you how to make the outfit.
So I'm going to be remaking this Melanie Martinez dress for another doll. So what you're going to need for this project is 2 light pink fabrics. Make sure they're not the same color, but both light pink. Picking up the top fabric first, you're going to want to cut it to your desired length. If you'd like this pattern, you can check it out on MorgsDolls Patreon. So now I'm going to go on fray check all over the sides. Now that the fray check is done, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to iron out a hem. The hem on this top is about 1/2 inch. You can totally hem the bottom if you'd like, but it's unnecessary, so I'm not going to be doing it. And now we can get started on pleating it. You're going to want to make sure that you're ironing the pleats as you go, just so they hold form on the body, because doll bodies don't hold pleats as well as humans do. The pleats are all done, so I'm going to go and sew a seam along the top to keep them together. I'm going to turn the corners in, I'm going to hem them, and then I'm going to sew another seam along the top. Then, using some Velcro, I ended up using 2 inches of Velcro. I'm going to go in and sew them on either sides. So if you're making this on a G3 Draculaura, you want it to be about 4 inches wide. Now the top is complete. Now we can go ahead and dress our Draculaura and make sure it fits. So you're just going to fold this fabric in, and that's why you don't need a hem, but if you wanted a hem for aesthetics, you know, you go for it. Now with the top done, we can finally start working on the bottom. So my bottom fabric is super frayed, so you're going to want to make sure that you fray check this. For the bottom, you're going to want to fold the fabric in half and then sew a seam along the top. After that seam is sewed, then we can turn it inside out. So you're going to want to iron the seam down so it's nice and flat for you, and then you're going to want to get an elastic. So this is the elastic I'm using. It was 50 cents from a thrift store, so we're just going to want to fit the elastic to the body. Once you have your elastic cut, you're going to want to make a seam along the top to string it through so it holds it together. Once the elastic is strong and secured, you're going to want to fill it with cotton and then close the sides off. I also added a little holder for the bottom so it stays in place. And the donut is done! Now once again, we have to make sure that it fits Draculaura. So now the top and bottom is complete base-wise, so now we can start on the embellishments. I'm going to show you guys how I made the little squiggle things on her dress. All it is gathered ribbon, so it's not really that hard, but I'll show you the process of doing it. So you're going to want to take a ribbon, and I measured mine to be 7 inches, and then what you're going to want to do is you're going to fire up the ends so they don't get all frayed and nasty when you put them on. So now I'm just going to sew a stitch down the center, and then I'm going to gather every single strand. After they're all gathered, then we can glue them on. And now the bottom is done. It kind of looks like a jellyfish. For the sleeves, I took the 7-inch ribbon, cut them in half, and then gathered them, and then I glued them in place. I just glued them while they were on the body, so I don't have any exact measurements for that. I'm so sorry. And now the dress is done, and it came out so cute. It's just a little puffball.
While Emma was working on the dress, I gave Melanie a couple of rings, and I decided to work on her shoes, because this doll is not going to be able to touch the ground while wearing Bonita's wings, so we need to give her some platform heels. Just using the basic shoes that came with G3 Draculaura, I painted them a forest green. Once the paint is all dry on the shoes, I am going to be sprinkling on this fake moss that I found at Walmart. You can get this at the dollar store if you don't want to spend as much money on this as I did. It'll literally be the same thing. And then I took some Elmer's glue all, which my glue was like completely dry and was disgusting, so watch me fix that for a second. And then I added some Elmer's glue all to the side of the shoe and then sprinkled it on like I was making a cake, and then I waited for that to dry and then did the same thing to the other side. This part was kind of fun to do because the messier it looks, the more natural it looks, because you just want it to look like Melanie's like rising up out of the earth, you know? Then I wanted the transition from like mossy shoe to leg to be a little more seamless, so I went ahead and just referenced G1 Venus McFlytrap, you know, and added some mossy vines spiraling around the leg. This part was very, very tedious as I wanted to glue it perfectly onto the vines that I painted, and it turned out really beautiful, and I think it was well worth it in the end. And with that and some other finishing touches, our newest Melanie Portals doll is done. I feel bad saying this, but I think I love this doll 10 times more than our first Melanie Portals doll. I just think the face-up is really improved from the first one I did, and the shoes are so iconic. I love them so much. You guys are going to have to stop me from doing these mossy shoes on every custom from now on because I need to get rid of this giant bag of moss that I have sitting around. We actually created this Melanie custom with the intention of auctioning it during our next Whatnot show, which is going to be this upcoming Sunday, May 28th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you'd like to come over, if you'd like to buy some dolls, we're going to have some Monster High dolls, lots of customs, the Shadow Ghouls will be auctioned as well, and we're even going to have these super cool custom 3D printed Monster High shoes. So if you want some really cool custom-made Monster High doll shoes for your own customs, come pop on over. You can use my code, which will get you $15 off any purchase in the app, so that can get you a free pair of custom Monster High shoes if you would like. We're also going to be giving away a third Melanie Portals doll that Emma and I have been working on. We're so excited to be giving away another custom doll, so I cannot wait. I really hope you guys come in, even if you don't feel like buying anything. If you want to just say hi, I'm really excited to chat with you guys. It's so much fun. So the links for that will be in the description if you'd like to get $15 off, or if you'd like to tune into my show, which is this Sunday. So thank you guys so much for your support as always. Thank you so much to my patrons, Hannah, Hunter, Lily, Ohio from Ohio, and Stephanie. Without you guys, these videos would not be possible, so thank you so much for supporting the Patreon. If you decide to create your own custom Melanie doll inspired by this video, please, please, please tag Emma and I because we would really love to see it. Being able to inspire you guys is incredibly fulfilling to me, and it means a lot, so I would love to see your own customs. After making these two dolls, I think we're definitely taking a bit of a hiatus from creating custom Melanie Portals dolls unless a music video drops and there's a super, super cool look. We might just have to make another one. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you so much for your support, and thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and yeah, that's it. Bye.